We are literally sitting in the middle of a hellish Heathrow security experience, waiting for my bags. But anyway, today we're flying Thai Airways first class from London to Bangkok. If you're flying Star Alliance first class or business class out of London Heathrow Terminal 2, you've got 4 lounges you can go to. The Lufthansa lounge over by the A gates, as well as any of the United Singapore Airlines and Air Canada lounges after a really long walk, and that's the walk that we're gonna go down now. Today though, we're a little bit short on time, so we're gonna skip the lounges and go straight to board the plane. I'm looking forward to 12 hours on Thai Airways first class. My first time on this experience. We'll cover all of the elements, the seat, the food, the pajamas and whatnot, but also tell you a little bit of a story along the way. Now, as much as I like to pick on London Heathrow and Terminal 2 in particular, ultimately this is a place that's quite special to me because back when I was living in London, which was about 9 years ago, I flew through this place so many times. You know, I think back then I would have only been able to dream of the travel that I'm doing right now, flying first class, business class. Boarding's in 3 minutes, so let's talk more when we board the plane. Boarding the Thai Airways 777, I was quite impressed by the first class cabin. There's 8 seats arranged in a 1-2-1 configuration, and it reminded me a little bit of previous first class airlines I've flown like Oman Air or Asiana, although I did wish there was some extra privacy in the form of a sliding door, especially as I plan to make a video. In terms of seat features, they're generally what you'd expect for first class, but not too much more than that. A couple of storage units by the window side, an entertainment screen in the front, and a tray table that folds out into place. All right, lunch is served here on Thai Airways first class. We've got some amuse-bouche, along with some LPGS champagne. The caviar presentation has started. What's really impressive here is there's this whole spread. The caviar comes in its very own tin. The stuff on the side, a couple of blinis over here. So here we've got the starter, which is a Thai scallop appetizer. But I really love the presentation. They've got Thai dipping sauce and then chili powder here as well. It's gonna be really interesting. Certainly, presentation's awesome. I'm curious to see how it's gonna taste. I do have to say, I'm a big fan of Thai food, so the way that Thai Airways pulls it off at 33,000 feet has been quite impressive so far. All right, now here we've got the main course of a prawn curry set plate. And now it's time to have what's arguably my favorite part about any Thai meal, and that's of course the dessert. I mean, just look at how beautiful this is. So nicely presented. All right, guys, so far really enjoying Thai Airways first class. The food's been great. Caviar, Thai food, desserts, impeccable. There's about 9 hours of the flight left to go. 9.5 hours, so it's gonna be a long one. Plenty of time to settle in, enjoy some snacks later on, and then we'll get to chatting. Like I've mentioned a few times on this channel now and in this video as well, these first class videos are super fun, but on this channel I also wanted to go a bit deeper and share with you some of the ideas that have served me well over the years as I grew my business, as I travel the world, as I unlock new insights. So let's get into it. Today I wanted to talk about the idea of global citizenship, why I personally think having a global mindset is so important and it served me over the years, and why I think if you're watching this, it's worth considering cultivating as well. So let's start with a bit of backstory, because my upbringing very much contributed to the mindset that I have and the work that I do. In many ways, it is very natural that I ended up starting a travel company because I grew up kind of across a mix of cultures. You know, I grew up in Hong Kong for 7 years, and then we moved to Beijing. And then I was there until I was 18. And then I moved to Toronto for university, spent about 5 years in Toronto, spent a year or so in London, and then Montreal as well. I spent a year there. And then 3 years ago, we moved back to my place I was born, Vancouver. And I've been on the West Coast ever since. Growing up in Beijing, because I went to what's known as an international school, I was exposed to, US culture, American culture from a young age, and that was generally the culture that I was familiar with in a school environment. But at home, in my family, and generally in the wider environment in the city that I grew up in, it was Chinese. And so I grew up kind of thinking that this was pretty normal and natural. And it was only when I went to university at first it was a bit jarring, right? I guess there's people who are, just familiar with the Western world, and when I say I grew up in Beijing, it's like a look of mystery on their faces. But then soon I realized that it's pretty much the same for my family, my extended family back at home in China, who just live their whole lives in a Chinese environment and have pretty off-base notions of the West as well. So that's a little bit of the story of why I hold the views I do, and why I see the world in the way that I do, and why when it came time to think about what I wanted to do in the world, I drew from that and I took the travels that I had already enjoyed and decided this is powerful. This is something I'd like to impact the world with. I'd like to enable this for more people, and that's why, 7 years ago I started Prince of Travel. So I'll share with you a little bit about why I think having a global mindset is valuable, right? Why I think it's something worth cultivating over time. I'll break it down to 3 reasons. Number 1, the world is basically run by a series of narratives, okay? This is something I've come to realize soon after I moved to Toronto, which is that people who just grew up in Toronto, just grew up in the West, only have been exposed to that, have bought into a narrative that's commonplace and predominant. To give you the simplest example from my life, living in the West, there is undeniably a sometimes subtle, sometimes not so subtle anti-China sentiment, right? If you're Chinese like me, or Chinese Canadian, Chinese American, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But living in China, there is also undeniably a subtle, sometimes not so subtle anti-Western sentiment. And as somebody who has lived in both places, has ties to both places, I'm like, these sentiments both exist. They can't both be true, because once you have this global mindset, once you've traveled the world, once you've seen how things are different in different places, you kind of get to see that there's a lot more that connects us and that we have in common all over the world than what's actually different about us. And the narratives often play on what's different and try to make us fear each other. But, as a traveler, as a global citizen, you understand that that's not the case. And that's kind of reassuring, also kind of beautiful, but most importantly, it's a lot closer to reality than the narratives that we're often told in a given place. So, looks like it's getting dark outside, and my camera battery is also dying here, so I'm going to give it a charge, and then we will resume. So number 2 reason why I think having a global mindset is important. But over the years, I've found that it's really helped me a lot in being able to form meaningful relationships. And that's been valuable to me in particular because, as a natural introvert, building relationships, getting to know people, getting to connect with people, it's not something that has come naturally to me. And as I've been able to draw from my experiences around the world, I found that it's really served me to think about, when I sit down with someone, who they are, what their upbringing was like, what their life journey, what their path has been like, what traits are they likely to have, what traits are they not likely to have, in what ways are they likely to be receptive to what I'm saying, the value we can, mutually establish and mutually create in this world. Just to give you an example, when it comes to Prince Collection, which is our luxury travel agency, one of the ways that we serve our clients at hotels is we build relationships with the properties so that when our clients book with us, they get special treatment, they get the best upgrades, they get, extra perks, welcome amenities, that kind of thing. And obviously, the deeper the relationship we have with the property and the more volume we bring, right, the more that our clients who book with us can expect to have a surprise and delight treatment when they stay. And so over the past year or so, as we've launched and grown Prince Collection, I've been traveling around the world, meeting hotels where we want to have a presence. And in terms of sitting down with a sales director and building rapport, it's a very different conversation when I'm in North America versus when I'm in Asia versus when I'm in Europe. So overall, that's a key way that having a global approach has served me, especially as I've transitioned more from, being a pure traveler to growing a business and doing everything that a CEO does. Obviously, relationships is a key part of that, nurturing them, building them. And I found that being able to put myself in the opposite number's shoes, understand their mindset, their mentality, has really helped me along the way so far. And obviously, this is something that's really a lifelong pursuit and something I'm looking forward to continuing to building. finally, let's talk about reason number 3 why I think being a global citizen is important and valuable. And this is something a little bit more practical in terms of the life that you're building for yourself and the options that you have. I believe anytime somebody visits a place, even if it's not a conscious thought, there's always in the back of one's mind, could I see myself living here, right? To me, at least, whenever I'm traveling, I'm always have that running in the back of my mind. So once you've seen a few places and understood the way of life, the lifestyles, you begin to understand that the way things are done in the place you grew up isn't necessarily the only way or the right way, and you get to kind of make the decision for yourself. Which part of the world would you like to engage with more? Which part of the world do you like the way they do things? You want to be a part of that? Which parts of the world have certain qualities about them that might make your life easier or more enjoyable or open up many more opportunities? Going back to this idea of East versus West, right? Living in Asia these days comes with a lot more conveniences. In many ways comes with an elevated quality of life, if that's what you choose. Now, on the other hand, North America will have greater access to many types of legacy institutions, let's call it that. A good example is credit card points, right? We can get a lot more out of our credit card points. We can unlock experiences like this in North America. We don't really have that anywhere else in the world. Last 5-10 years, right? Lots of people from North America are being attracted to Asia, Southeast Asia, cheaper cost of living, a better environment to work in, right? Everything is digital these days. Everything is online. It's all about being open to these possibilities, and you don't get that if you don't cultivate a global mindset. Okay, after a bit of a storytelling session and a bit of food, a bit of drinks, it's time to get some rest. There's about 5 hours of the flight left. I did want to say, it's obviously very natural for me to espouse the benefits of being a global citizen, because after all, I was raised in a way that enabled that, and I was encouraged to further pursue that by building a career in the travel space. It's obviously second nature to me nowadays to travel and continue to expand my horizons, and it's going to be like that for the rest of my life. Now, if you're somebody who's perhaps just starting out, perhaps you're just taking your first few trips, you're just beginning on this journey of discovering the world, getting more experiences under your belt, travel is a lot more accessible than you might think. There's a wealth of knowledge out there about how to maximize your points and your credit cards and all the tools that are available out there to travel the world, and it doesn't have to cost a lot, right? You can book flights, hotels, using points for a fraction of the price, and that's usually the biggest part of your travel budget, and that enables you to take so many more trips, do so in style, and really, have the opportunity to cultivate some of the global mindset that we've been talking about. So if that interests you, that's basically everything we do at Prince of Travel. So check out our YouTube channel. We do a lot of videos there as well. Check out our website, princeoftravel.com. And towards the end of this video, I'll share with you exactly how I booked this flight, Thai Airways First Class, that I'm on right now, for a fraction of the price using points. All right, just about wrapping up the flight now, about 40 minutes outside of Bangkok. I got one last Thai iced tea just to wrap things up, and a few words about the service here on Thai Airways First Class. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I thought the service was warm, kind, friendly. They were encouraging me to try as many items on the menu as I could. Crew was proactively checking in pretty often, and even though I took my time with some of the courses, they would check in, leave, come back, and clear things up pretty efficiently and move on to the next course. If you aren't familiar with the backstory, Thai Airways actually retired first class during the pandemic, and then they brought it back because the King of Thailand really wanted to fly first class on his trips to London or something, basically. So they brought it back for that purpose. So you kind of imagine the crew have to be very well trained if they're going to service the Thai royals, right? Royal family travels on this product. Now, if you don't happen to be Thai royalty yourself, then the best way to find yourself in this first class seat is going to be using points. And fortunately, there's quite a few good ways to book Thai Airways first class on points. On this London-Bangkok route, it's about 100,000 Aeroplan points one way. I personally booked it as part of an overall trip from North America to Europe to Bangkok. And the first flight was with Lufthansa first class and then Thai Airways first class. That was about 150,000 Aeroplan points in total, so I thought pretty good deal for 2 first class flights, long haul. And speaking of which, as we wrap up this video, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found something valuable out of the time we've spent together. And if you'd like to watch that Lufthansa first class flight I mentioned, there's more outstanding luxury experiences and more conversations to be had. So I'll see you over there.